In January, we launched our Campus Ambassadors programme, which was a nationwide initiative to develop a cohort of student leaders that are equipped and empowered to develop dialogue and build bridges between Muslim and Jewish students on campuses up and down the country. And today, that cohort is arriving here at Oriel College, Oxford, to take part in an intensive 4-day training course designed to fast-track their development and prepare them for the challenge of becoming our first class of campus ambassadors.
The purpose of the residential is to get to know each other better, to learn from each other, learn about others' opinions, sort of use this safe environment to springboard into more complex issues that we all have experienced, that we all can draw from, and hopefully covering a lot of ways to deal with conflict and manage dialogue.
This is a story of our 2011 Ambassadors Residential. It's Sunday afternoon and the ambassadors are arriving. They've been checking out their rooms and getting reacquainted before heading downstairs for our first briefing.
We kicked off today with a visit from Alexander Wayne, and he came to see us from the Oxford Centre for Islamic Studies, and he just spoke to the ambassadors a bit about his research and offered some really interesting insights about Islam around the world and how it's studied. And it was also really interesting because he himself presented kind of a challenge to some people's stereotypes of what a Muslim person might look like, and some of the ambassadors were surprised to find out that he himself was Muslim, which was interesting for the conversations that we had later on. And this really feeds into what we want the ambassadors to be able to do as part of this programme, which is to explore and really actively deepen their understanding of both faiths.
I thought it was really interesting how he told us that the Muslim population was really dominant in China. He said up to 25%, which I was completely unaware of. One thing I definitely have learnt is to not judge people just by their looks. Just assume you have some kind of knowledge about them when really you don't know anything.
After the session we had a Q&A session which ran for over an hour just because the ambassadors had so many questions. But then we finally let Alex leave and we had dinner that night before settling down to watch a film.
Today we've had our first module of this residential, and it was a follow-up with Helena Sharpstone. This one was about personality types and conflict resolutions, just giving you an idea of how there are different people out there. They are going to hold certain views and just how to deal with certain situations.
Each of the ambassadors answered a set of questions which then resulted in a personal profile being generated for each one, and the profile sort of indicated their own personal leadership qualities, whether they were more introvert or extrovert, whether they were more thinkers or feelers, and they talked about how you can engage with people who are of a different kind of personality trait to you.
There's very different ways of dealing with people, and this was very, very helpful to show us how we can relate better to people.
Our second workshop was Dialogue and Listening Skills, which was run by Justine Huxley. The ambassadors are going to be going out onto campus and they will be engaging with the students who want to talk about potentially quite difficult subjects. And what we wanted was to be able to equip them with the skills to be able to have that conversation and also to be able to listen.
We were to get into pairs of two, one Jewish and one Muslim student or ambassador, and we had 4 minutes to talk about a personal subject, either with relationships or religion or involving both. The challenge was not to judge, not to interfere, and to listen and try to understand as much as possible the other person's viewpoint. And it showed how powerful it is just to listen. And once you're opening up, it's quite freeing, because you know that you can share, and especially if you realize that the other person is listening and trying to understand. It's a really good feeling.
I'm pretty sure W is wide, but yeah.
So, any special words to say before we step into this?
It could be interesting. It'd be interesting to see my Muslim friends' reactions to the synagogue.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Seeing the synagogue itself.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
So we just visited Richmond Road Synagogue. It was a wonderful opportunity. We met with the rabbi and a couple of other helpful volunteers who showed us around the synagogue and also gave us a very good introduction to Judaism and the way it's practiced in Oxford here. We discovered that there's a lot that's common between the two faiths. For example, everything from the way men and women sit in the synagogue, to the way they would practice faith, to the prayers that are said, and also the significance of daily, weekly and also yearly events.
Side profile.
So where are we and what are we doing here?
Right now we're at Bowlplex.
Okay.
We're just about to go bowling.
Is there enough battery? So we've come here just to prove how good I am at bowling. Eamon is struggling to spell different people's names.
Workshop number 3 started with a kind of in-house session for the ambassadors, and it gave us all a chance to work together so that we could draw up some clear operating guidelines and principles for the actual Campus Ambassadors programme, just really to make sure that everyone's on the same page and everyone, specifically the ambassadors, get a strong sense of the Coexistence Trust vision in terms of what we actually want to be achieving and doing on campus, but also to provide them with a space for them to air any concerns that they may have and to go through any questions in terms of challenges that they may well encounter.
For our 4th workshop, we had Miriam Arkush and Samir Mahmood from the Cambridge Interfaith programme, and they came to deliver a session about scriptural reasoning, kind of a guide as to how to use scriptural reasoning as a tool on campus to develop dialogue and understanding between Muslim and Jewish students.
Scriptural reasoning is about various people from various communities getting together around their scriptures and demonstrating to people of other faiths how they reason with their scripture, how they live with their scripture, how they interact with it, with a common sense of reverence for their own scripture, to build up a mutual understanding and a mutual respect for each other's texts.
And it's not a sort of thing where you're emphasising, I'm the same as you. You're emphasising that we're different and we can live with that. So rejoicing in the fact that despite that we can get along.
The most obvious way of using scriptural reasoning on campus is for students to come together over texts and to see and discuss how and why religion can be a source of inspiration, but also how texts often are abused and unjustified leaps are made to read violence into the text.
This is definitely an approach which seeks to, I think, achieve a sense of sustaining identity whilst promoting friendship.
So what are we doing tonight?
We are ice skating, or at least we are trying to.
I'm giving up my arm and just like.
My name is Jane Clements and I'm the founder director of FODIP, which stands for the Forum for Discussion of Israel and Palestine. The session that we've just participated in is really a sort of condensed version of some of the training that we do for facilitators who want to help people begin to have a conversation about Israel and Palestine, but are very aware that it's an incredibly difficult and emotive issue, and therefore they want to have some tools, some strategies and some foreknowledge from people who've been through it and made the mistakes to see how best to do it.
It was very useful, very inspiring as well, and I think the most crucial aspect to take out of it was about talking about people and all about your own personal view and your personal story and finding a connection there. And I found this really useful for a number of reasons, because it helped in learning how to facilitate dialogue, which is something I've done before in different contexts, and in this particular context it's a very difficult thing.
I've seen today that the ambassadors have good opportunities and ideas and skills and experiences and vision, really a lot of vision there to see an end game and to see that things can be reached and achieved despite very difficult situations.
Well, it's been an eye-opening, inspirational, challenging and jam-packed few days for all of us, and I guess now it's time to say goodbye. We know that they're going to do everything that they can to listen, understand and truly connect with the students on their campuses, and we're going to do our very best to give them every support.
think it has changed me as a person and just for my overall development, I think.
Here has really kind of allowed us just to get to know each other for who we are and beyond the kind of generalisations about Jew is this, Muslim is this, which it's great, it's good stuff.
The most amazing thing has been how we've all managed to bond and become really close and just share personal stories with each other. Despite our many differences in religion, views, politics, everything else, we've really managed to become close and become actual friends.
Come on, man. I'm sorry.